All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Amol, your host for today, together with experts Bart and Geoffrey. This is our second webinar in the series that BM Process Management is doing with all their partners. And today's webinar is a special because we are going to speak about something important that all of us cannot ignore. We are looking at a very important shift in process safety. Traditional HAZOP and LOPA review still takes days or weeks, yet our operation changes every day. And that gap between how fast we work and how slowly we analyze risk is exactly where incidents begin. In this session, you will see how Gordium uses AI to close that gap. You'll see how study time can be reduced from a few days to half, and how organizations can save a lot of money while using the smart solutions, and how 60% of scenarios can be automated on the first attempt. Most importantly, you will see how experts stay fully in control while the platform removes repeated manual work. So our goal for today is very simple: to show you what dynamic data-driven safety can look like, and to give you a practical view of how AI, artificial intelligence, can make your HAZOP and LOPA study faster, safer, and more consistent. Thank you for being here, and let's get started. As you can see, there are two experts joining me with total 50 plus years of experience in this field, Bart and Geoffrey. So before I begin, just a quick practicality. As you can see, by default, all of you are on mute, and either you can ask questions, put your message in the chat, and we're also going to have poll so that it will be an interactive discussions and you will hear more from us. Next, I would like to invite on the stage Mr. Bart Mochens. Bart has worked for Tier A engineering companies such as Jacobs, Fluor, for equipment supplies such as Gaia Group, and also held key engineering positions in the tank storage industry. Emission control grew into a main topic in all his work over the years, ensuring the air we breathe is a bit cleaner every day. Bart, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Thank you. Over to you.
So, hi, I'm Bart. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining this event that we proudly host with our friends of Gordium. I'm a process engineer, and like quite a few of you, I'm driven by, the urge to understand how things work. I still know when I was small, just a kid, I always would like to know how things worked. Some struggle to actually find what it is that they want to do as a job. Me, myself, I knew it quite soon. I still know the day when I was, just a small kid and we went to an actual open door event at a process plant. And right then and there, I knew this is what I want to do. I mean, I want to build this stuff. I mean, super cool. So that's what I did. Over the years, as a process guy, I also learned that it is critical that you learn how things can fail. Um, in the process world, the HAZOP is what we actually use to know how things can fail. So HAZOPs, right? Not all process guys like that. Hashtag boring. But actually, I do, because it is then and there that I learn whether I actually did a good job or not. So eventually, my path brought me to where I am now. And that is where I would like to shape processes and projects the way that I would like it, and to do it in a lean and mean way, as I thought our clients would actually need that. But my journey here was not only professional, it was also personal. You probably all know this guy, right? Chasing the prize, running hard. And it's a flashback to 2018. I was hard at work and having a great time. So it's all good, right? However, as Steve Jobs once said, sometimes life hits you over the head with a brick. And that's exactly what happened to me in 2018. You can go to the next slide, please. In 2018, I had a real life-changing event when I had a car crash when I was traveling to a plant where I was at work. It was a low sun. I missed a car, or a van even, from the right when I crossed the road in my car, and it smashed into the right front door. That car crash left me blinded in my left eye. So for the guys that hate me, that's bad because I'm still here. I'm blinded in my left eye. I really thought my life would be over, but it isn't, because here I am. And for those of you who want to know, with one eye, you can do a lot. The brain is a beautiful thing. But that forced me to rethink many things: my life, my work, and what is it that I'm trying to do. And it also brought to my mind that to be safe is not an abstract thing. It is not a box that you tick or something that you file. It is whether you go home safe or not. It's that simple. So we do HAZOPs a lot. So if you are a client and you would like a HAZOP done, you want a chairman, whatever, we are there. But we only use this new platform. And there is an actual goal to that. Because behind every plant, behind every process, there are moms, dads, friends, and they deserve to go home safely at the end of every day. So thank you that you join us. I hope that this hour will bring new views on what it is that you can do when you bring all of that you know and join that into some real 2025 tech. And I'm sure that you will be happy as I was when I first saw this new platform. So thank you and enjoy.
Thank you, Bart, for sharing something so personal. Stories like yours remind us why safety is not about procedures, tools, or compliance. It's about people, who we are. It's about preventing that one moment that can change a life, a family, or an entire organization. And that is exactly why we are here today, to explore how we can take safety further, make better decisions, and use technology in a way that protects the people behind every process. With that, let's move next into the next part of today's session and see how Gordium's platform support this mission. Before this, I'm looking at my other screen. I would like to see what our audience think. There is a quick poll on your screen, and or you can also check the chat. Is it really possible to automate HAZOP completely with AI? Yes, no, or maybe you're not sure. Let us know what you think. So you might see it on your screen or the chat. Let's see. Oh, there are 17 responses. Amazing. But still, 47% people think no, 29% are not sure, only 24% people think yes, it is possible. I think we are going to have an interesting discussion today. And for that, I would like to invite on the stage Geoffrey van Elderen. He's a founder and managing director of Gordium. With over 25 years of experience in process safety and industrial consulting, Geoffrey leads Gordium's mission to revolutionize risk management through artificial intelligence. His career spans engineering, chemical production, and international consultancy leadership, bringing a powerful perspective on how digital innovation reshape safety and efficiency. I see Geoffrey is already here on the screen. Geoffrey, are you ready to take over?
Surely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Amol, for your very kind words. And a special thanks to Bart from our partner BM Process for inviting us to this 2 monthly webinar series. So my name is Geoffrey van Elderen. I'm working for HAZOP Industries for the last 30 years. Spent many different positions. Started off with designing new plants, going to reviewing it for process safety. And in the last, I would say the better part of the last 2 decades, I've been in executive management positions, amongst which was being the managing director of a large international consultancy. But that's not what I do today. So before I introduce me, myself, and my company, today is all about checklists and how AI and HAZOP will help you with that. As I said, it's not what I do today, the other functions. Today is all about Gordium. And for me, this started, I think, even 40 years back. When I was 16 years old, one of my closest friends had lost his father, in fact, and his father did not come home from a work-related incident. He even couldn't see his father any longer. And yeah, I of course went to funerals, but I also lived with him through his youth without having a father, and that was a big impact. And even within 2 years, another friend from the same group had exactly the same happening. Also, his father did not come home from a work-related incident, and peculiarly, it was even at the same company. But it really changed me. And then now, speed forward 40 years down the road, having that experience, having worked for HAZOP Industries, you come at the moment in your career that you say, okay, maybe we can change something here. And that's what Gordium is to me. And you may ask, what is Gordium? You have a nice picture on the previous sheets. Probably you know all that this would be the Gordian knot. Not too complicated. Gordium knot. Nice story to tell you, but I will tell you that story personal when we meet during our next meeting. For now, it's okay to know that Gordium can be the place for you and for your colleagues in HAZOP Industries to go to, and with a few clicks have insights really in process safety. So back to the poll. It was already on the screen. 24% says, okay, that can happen. Completely automating HAZOP, good to go. Over half said no, that we don't see it yet, at least not at this moment in time. In fact, this is the topic of our presentation, and the answer is in fact both. Yes, it is possible, but is it desirable? That's the big question. And I will come back to that later on. So we will come back to the poll. Before we go to the next slide, maybe just quickly back, have a quick poll, have a quick in the chat answering. When do you think that the first HAZOP was conducted ever? So when was the first HAZOP conducted? Give me your years in the chat. Someone saying 1990, 1985. We are going the right direction. 1974, 82. A bit lower maybe. Even further lower. 69. That's years back, but okay, yeah. So if we would go to the next slide, you will see the people are still answering, so great. If we would go to the next slide, we will see the answer. In fact, what you see on screen is the first paper ever written on HAZOP. It's a paper from 1974, And it's written by Lawley. And Lawley was a direct colleague of the famous Trevor Kletz, both working for ICI. And Lawley was tasked by management to review a completely new process for ICI. And that completely new process needed a completely new way of thinking. And that's what HAZOP was. But in fact, that HAZOP itself was conducted 10 years before. So the right answer should have been 1963 or 1964 or nearby. So I see several people quite close for that. 60 years back, 60 years back. And I have to say, on the methodology, less has changed in the last 60 years. Maybe we added the risk matrix to it. Maybe we integrated LOPA on it. Few different other changes, but no biggies. And since you all are quite familiar with the topic, you all know that the key characteristic of an HAZOP is doing it with a multidisciplinary team, with a team of humans. So if you go back to the poll thinking about automating, okay. But then again, doing it with a team is also the Achilles heel of doing HAZOP studies. Because if you would do the same HAZOP of the same process in the same company by two different teams, the outcome will differ. And that's a problem. One of the teams can say, okay, for this same scenario, we think that we can do with one safeguard less. So they underprotect. The other team could even oversee some scenarios the first team did take into account, and vice versa. So big potential errors there. So that's one end. But if I really would ask you, where do you know HAZOP studies from? It's from this. And please, next. You know them, tables. And I would even say tables with endless rows, with many different columns. They are always on screen in a HAZOP. And to be honest, I hate them. This is my biggest frustration. And that grew already end of the 90s. Recording an HAZOP, I was scribe. I took that report 3 months later on, and I was in the HAZOP and I describe it. And understanding that HAZOP again took really some time. If you take a table, you really need to go through it again. You really need to deep dive again. And yeah, that's not easy reading. Huh? And that is a big problem. And I think most of you recognize that feeling. There we have another report of tables. So that's what HAZOP is. But why is it a big issue? Because you need to revisit those HAZOPs a lot of times. If you have an incident, if you do an MOC, if you have a change made, if you want to see if a safeguard can be maybe bridged for a moment of time. Every time you have to dive in again, you have to really look what is happening and dive into that report. And that's the biggest problem. So that calls for automation. What I did is I asked ChatGPT just to present a timeline 1990 till now with the biggest automations in HAZOP. This is exactly the sheet ChatGPT came with. Of course, we put a Gordium nice master behind it, and I put in the orange text to have some markers for you. What you see on screen is 3 waves of automation. First wave, 1990s, expert systems. Really forget about it because it never matured. It never went into real new software. But this is the age when the current existing HAZOP software was developed. So PHA Pro was already there, PHA Works, Lihu, all kind of other software. In the 90s, it was already there. It helped already teams to support with HAZOPs. It had also the data structure, which was at that time valid for it. Second wave. I can tell a long story about it, but what people did is very different directions. But for instance, they try to use Aspen HiSys, simulations, flow sheeting, and can we generate already and populate already, pre-populate HAZOP worksheets. Again, never materialized, never went into commercial software. The packages you saw in the 90s were still how they were in that wave. And then something really different happened. You all know it, we call it AI nowadays, but ChatGPT went viral. And that's only 3 years back. 3 years. And it speeds up a lot. So maybe I can take you through a bit of time, how we started our company, how we developed it with AI. Early 2020, we founded our company, and we started with an experiment, in fact. And the experiment was, can we automate the worksheets? It's a quite complex picture, but let's make it quick. We scanned P&IDs, we classified what was on a P&ID, we tied in scenarios to it. So for instance, if you would have a valve in a discharge of a pump, it would get different scenarios from a valve in the suction of a pump. We generated a report with it, and in the end, it was near to complete. And if you look at that process, at that time even, we did have a successful proof of concept. In 2021, we could conclude, we can do this. We can automate HAZOPs. So we are really happy. We could do a lot here. Clear? This is not the direction we took with our company. So maybe you would ask why. Many different reasons. A few are mentioned here. Bad quality, P&IDs not indicating everything, whatever, hallucination of the AI. But there was one biggest reason. Major stakeholders really distrusted the outcome. You can't trust something if you don't know how it's gathered together. And most vivid in my memory was a discussion I had with one colleague with the UK Health and Safety Authority. We were proud. We had a successful proof of concept. We presented it to them, and they said, "Are you really mad?" It was a British guy being polite to me, I think, but they didn't really like it. But it's not only for the authorities. In fact, if we went to major asset owners, they also were on that path. So that's why we took a different direction. With one headline, I could say that direction is AI working together with you and not for you. And that's what we are doing nowadays. And maybe best just to present it to you and to demo it to you. So let's go to a live demo. And what I need to do now is, first of all, I'm going to ask Bart back again to the stage.
Yep, here I am.
Okay. And maybe we can have the next slide on the screen now. Yeah. So before you say, Bart, what's on screen, maybe some people can have an idea via the chat. What is presented here? It's a unit, a quite process intensive unit. Anyone knows by heart what it is via the chat? So I see the word cracker coming in quite close. A nice RTO. Okay. Syngas reformer, oxidizer, fancy flare unit. All kind of things. And it's quite close. But we're going to do a demo of an HAZOP. And I will be the facilitator. So I will step out presenting it to you now. I will be the facilitator. Bart will be the process engineer who designed this unit. And we will go into a HAZOP. And before we go into the HAZOP, maybe, Bart, I can ask you to quickly tell us what the unit is all about. And then I also already can give you a good screen of our system to share with you.
Yes, no problem. What you just saw on screen was a beautiful Kranz RTO. So that means that that is a plant that is used to actually clean off-gas. So the off-gas is burned, but then in a very smart and clean way. This is a view of an actual project, or actually two projects that we are having built right now. So that's what you saw on screen. Okay. An RTO and a tank farm in this instance. So we clean off gas. Yep. Regenerative oxidizer. Yep.
So what I did in the meantime, I went to the cloud. I'm logged in as in a demo account. This is the company environment. I will go to the project. The project would be a Krans RTO unit. I think you discussed with that in what RTO and Krans do on the subject in the last seminar. So
Yes.
should be maybe familiar to people. This will be the project site on which we log in. You can find everything here. So all the documents are here. People can go here before we go to the study to really already train and see what and prepare for the HAZOP, in fact. But that's not what we do today. I, as a facilitator, split up the system in two nodes. So the vapor collection system itself and the regenerative thermal oxidizer. Let's assume we are already in the HAZOP. So we are in the node 2, the regenerative thermal oxidizer. Bart, as a process engineer, also explained a lot about how it's controlled and what are the major controls in it, what kind of mode of operations we have, all kind of stuff I typed in. It's already there now. And we were in a deviation I called out and I said, okay, let's discuss the operation order for this unit. And we put in a bit of a design intent, and we now are going really into the brainstorm part. So maybe, Bart, we are a team of two. So, but maybe I can ask you, causes which would cause us to deviate from a normal operation.
For example, it brings to mind one of the examples we had at one of our clients that had an RTO in 2020. And there was a problem there where the RTO actually overheated. And the root cause for that was that the main, let's say, valve of the off gas that goes into the RTO was actually bridged. So that means that they were having work done or whatever, but it was bridged over or however you call it. So the valve did not act where it actually had to act. That was a thing that happened.
Okay.
For example.
So could be one of the causes. And of course, we in this case, I typed it in, but every team member can go into this system and brainstorm themselves. So let's assume that people would also say, okay, we would have an emergency trip of the system or an RTO with dampers out of sequence or whatever. You can brainstorm a lot. And in fact, up to so far, you as an audience say, okay, is this it? Because this is a typical HAZOP, in fact. There's nothing different from what we do nowadays. But as soon as I would click on one of those entries, so let's take that one, something, I would even say magic will happen. And maybe I go out of my role of facilitator now and explain it a bit to the audience. What did happen? The system came up with a few suggestions for scenarios which you could discuss with the team. And he based that on a knowledge graph. And hold that term. I will come back what a knowledge graph is. And based on the entry Bart gave, main valve, off gas, override, and manual, knowing that it's in the operation order, knowing the context Bart gave with what kind of operations and whatever, knowing that it was in a regenerative thermal oxidizer, the system came up with a lot of different scenarios and ranked them even with the highest similarity ranking scenario on top. So in this case, the threat would be RTO main vapor inlet valve on manual during normal operation. The top event would be temperature excursion or overheating. Consequence would be RTO damaged and injuries. And it seems to me, Bart, that this is quite close to the scenario you mentioned, overheating due to that valve. Agree?
That is exactly what happened, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So surely we could also start blank, but let's click on this scenario then. Let's click on save, so it sets it into the study now. And what the system does directly is it not only extracts the scenario, as you see it, it will also present it in a kind of bow tie structure. And I say kind of, because what you see, and that's typical for HAZOP, we have a single cause in the green box, running up and creating multiple consequences. That's what differs from an HAZOP and a bow tie. It's a single cause, multi-consequence combination. We present it as a bow tie, but of course, people who like that structure, I don't like, but can also just go into a table structure and just work from out that table structure. But what the system did, it already present to you quite a complete scenario, and in it also already consequences. And of course, I'm not going to detail too much today, but the injury, the RTO damage in the risk matrix of the client can fully be adapted by the team. The team will confirm where it is in the risk matrix. The system just comes up with a suggestion. It's up to the team to say, okay, it's different for us. And it will present to you in 3 different shields: the bare risk, unprotected, the actual risk with all the safeguarding in, and the residual risk. If you also would take all the actions you make, then you will end up there. Not to explain too much, but it's completely according to company structure. But what it also does, and that's the biggest advantage, it will provide you with all kind of safeguarding, which is typically done in this specific scenario. And it's over here, a few barriers. And let's just click on one of those barriers. So let's click on the first one. Status of the barriers is unknown, so we can reject it or confirm it. But ask a question to you, Bart. Maintenance override password to protect from people putting it just on manual. Is that in your project?
Yes.
Okay.
So
let's assume that the complete team would agree. Let's assume that the full complete people would say it's also independent from the other safeguarding. Let's assume that people say, now, I don't agree with that specific justification, which is here on a data table structure of LOPA with all the information there, but say no, team judgment, experience in field or whatever, and we adjust the pay of day to it. So we can just completely adopt it. And we save it. And with it, you see that shields will differ and that it will take already new credits for that safeguard then. In this scenario, but also in the other scenarios where it can apply. So what you see is with easy steps, a lot of support will be given by the system to the team, but the team is in full control. So for this part, really, AI thinks with you, not for you. So with that, if you agree, Bart, and we're gonna confirm this scenario, we put it into the record and we discussed that incident then.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
And maybe we do it a bit short now. We can go through every other scenario here, but for now, I would say let's end up and wrap up the demo here. So I'm gonna ask the existing presentation to come up on the screen again. And thank you, Bart, for your for maybe this quick demo and with a lot of talking of me. I like talking maybe, but I think you experienced a bit how an HAZOP could look like if you use that knowledge graph part of it. So let's maybe go to what's happened at the back end of the system, because how did we come to what you saw happening? And I can take hours for this sheet, and I will not do so. Amol will really kill me then. But what you see on the screen is two circles. In the middle of it, that's a knowledge graph. And maybe for everyone in the chat, do you know what a knowledge graph is? Can you just express in a few words what is a knowledge graph? Just a simple scenario library. Okay, it's a challenging answer, probably. A central brain of knowledge. That's also, I like the second one better. But the first one is not completely untrue, but it's also not completely true. So if I think about a simple scenario library, it's just a table of all kind of scenarios you need to discuss. And 2 by 2. And that's not what a knowledge graph is. And a knowledge graph, best to be thought of, it's a data structure which really mimics how your brains work. And so knowledge graph, brains, what would your brain do? I'm here in my office. I smell a certain odor, and it brings me back to a certain moment in time, and I have a memory of it in my brain. So it's association. You have a bit of information, and a system can associate different kind of data from it. And that's what a knowledge graph is. It can really connect data points via free association. And what we do differently at Gordium, we have trained the knowledge graph. In the knowledge graph, also provided it with what we would call an ontology, and that ontology is specifically for process safety studies. And what is an ontology? I would say we have provided the system already with predetermined typical paths of association. So how can you connect data points? If people would bring in data points, how can you associate those data points and bring them to scenarios? And that's more or less what we do. Quickly, at the left-hand side, you see how we generate the knowledge graphs. We use AI for it. But to be honest, there's also a lot of work, process steps in between, custom coding a bit to ultimately create a knowledge graph. And before we release it, it will be validated by people, because AI can hallucinate, can completely whack it out. And at the right-hand side, you see, in fact, the demo. We did a brainstorm. Bart indicated specific search terms. With it, we were able to extract a scenario specific from the knowledge graph. And as a team, we completely restructured that scenario, said, okay, this is what we want it to look like. And we put it back into the study itself. Ultimately, this is what we do nowadays with AI within Gordium. But that's not all. So the famous words of Steve Jobs, next thing. But before we present what we will do next in our roadmap, maybe I can ask you all how we could use AI in other use cases for process hazard analysis, and just give us, in fact, maybe already good suggestions for next roadmap before I present a few things of our own. So please provide it in the chat if you think these are the things I would think of if I use AI for process hazard analysis. Suggesting missing scenarios. Yeah. Any other things? So maybe just review things that are put in by the team for accuracy. Yeah. Fix inconsistencies. AI function as a scriber, so really translate and put it in is my imagination behind that. Check for completeness, that's a good one. Yeah, the other ones are also good, to be honest. But yeah, solution suggesting. Yeah, summary of the study. How you're gonna go wild, I would say. Employ company-specific typicals, also a good one. So I would say you are completely triggered, and I can relate to everything you say here. So let's present quickly what we have on our roadmap. The Gordium chatbot, and you would say chatbot, it's there already. It's why it's not already in the software, because we see the chatbot not only as something you would use up front of a study or during the study, but maybe even more important, to interact with your evergreen HAZOP study. And for instance, you have a Seveso inspection. Inspector is asking you a question. Chatbot is reading with you and saying, okay, your answer to the inspector could take these directions. This is where you, what is in the HAZOP. This is the suggested answer. And it's up to you, of course, to answer it, but it will help you really on that. Or just say, operations in the control room wants to bridge a specific hazard. What will be the safeguard? What will be the outcome of the risk of it? So a lot of interactions. One direction, another direction. would be Gordium Copilot. So the system driving along with you, help systems, and not for you. Partly this is already done in our software, because with our software you can't make inconsistencies you can make with software nowadays. So we also coded our software in the right way, specifically using also that ontology. But this Copilot is really all about several things I saw in the chat. So fixing inconsistencies, checking for completeness. Did you cover all the well-known industry scenarios? Did you do all your LRP studies? Can you find inconsistencies in the text itself? Suggest improvements, all kind of other things you could expect from a Copilot. So that's also on our development roadmap. And we can do that because we have that knowledge graph structure. We have that ontology on top of it. Because you need something different from just the table structures you have nowadays. And maybe the last one, and that's maybe the most complicated one, to really create from your own sources as a user and company using our software, completely automatically generate your own knowledge graph. And that's quite stretched, because you need different steps nowadays with different control moments, with different entity abstractions. So it's not completely automated yet, but that's also what we aim to do. And with that, you would be able to really take your complete own sources. We can do that today, but then we will help you. And in the back end, we will support AI through a few steps we do for that. But this is really completely online in your own environment. So with that, that's the biggest steps we will take. And I will give the floor back to Amol.
Thank you, Geoffrey. It was very interesting, and I'm sure our audience learned a lot in the last 35 minutes. I will call you back again in a couple of minutes. I wanted to show something to our audience. Let me put it on the screen. Take a sip of water, and we'll see you back. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at my screen, even though this platform is amazing and really helping a lot of industries already, if you look at gordium.eu and go to software pricing, one thing that Geoffrey has not mentioned yet, have a 2 weeks trial for free, no payment details needed, and you can just activate in 3 minutes. So try it. If you have any questions, contact Geoffrey, and he will be happy to explain you more about how even the trial works. So with this, what I would like to do is invite both Geoffrey and Bart again on the screen. And all of you, I'm sure, I'm looking at my bigger screen. Let's have some question and answer. In the meantime, I have a few questions. I already made some notes, but if you have some questions, put it on the chat. But before that, gentlemen, tell me, what is your HAZOP experience? Few hundred, few thousands? But how many HAZOPs you have done?
Many. I didn't count, but it will be absolutely more than a few hundred, I think, over the past 20 years I've been at work. So a lot, both as chairman or as an actual process guy or whatever. So yeah, many. But not as many as Geoffrey, probably.
Same here. I would say it's nearing the 1,000, or maybe it's already a few thousand. Yeah.
All right. So I'll wait for some questions from the audience. But in the meantime, I wanted to ask Bart actually. But I know safety is a big thing in your life, and we spoke about it also in the past. You explain it, and it's not easy to share your personal story. But what's your personal experience with Gordium, and why would you recommend? Why not some other platform, or why Gordium platform?
Well, as said, first of all, when we work for clients, I want to ensure that we can work lean and mean. And that means that we can move faster and bring higher quality. And with this platform, we can. So that's why we actually use it. One of the things, so it's not only what you just saw, that it actually thinks with you, so it doesn't think for you. That has to be clear, but it really speeds up the process. You don't have to have a scribe. So if I chair using this platform, I can scribe, and it's just, so that's a lot faster, saves cost. That's one thing. But the main critical thing, I think, is we all know that if you did a HAZOP and then you get an audit 3 years down the line of your plant, like, oh shit, now we have to look up the HAZOP again. And then you go through these files and you have no idea what is in there, let alone know whether actions were actually closed, because you can't find it. And that is really a problem and a massive risk. And with this platform, and we didn't even see that. But what I find super cool in this is that it is always right. So you log on, you see the actual, how it is right then. Did we close actions? Yes or no? How are they? And if you want to know, did we actually protect this thing? Yes or no? You can actually go through that whole thing, super easy, find it out, that's it. And if
Yep.
you match that with what will be there with this chatbot, yeah, that's actually groundbreaking, really. So
Yeah.
that's why
I can see how much you like Gordium platform. Like your answers tells everything.
that's why I'm here. I mean, yeah,
So
I mean
let's
it.
say we still have 10 minutes to go.
I'm
By the
blushing,
way,
Bart. Thank you for that.
by the way, good that you gave me some time for question and answer. And our audience, I saw some questions, and maybe we can ask this to Geoffrey. Geoffrey, it's not me, and I'm sure, especially when it comes to industry, there is a lot of data, privacy, and people are scared of AI. So, can I use Gordium without AI? Is it possible?
Good question. Yeah, and of course AI can be very scary. So answer quickly, yes, you can just switch off that knowledge graph part and just do an HAZOP. And also benefit still from all the gains we made in the last 20 years, because what we did is we rebuilt a piece of software from the ground. And of course, we have the advantage of it, that it can be nicely structured, good viewed, all kind of insights you normally will not see in typical software. We've already presented in it. So you can just use it also without AI. Yes.
All right, all right. Thank you. And maybe you can answer the next question. Can I
Yeah.
import our current HAZOP studies? I think yes. Like it should not
Yeah.
be a problem, no?
Yeah, so I think it was, can I import the current HAZOP studies? Surely every data dump you make from different software sources, can even be your own Excel, by the way, looks differently. So we do have to map it. The system does need to know this is this, this is this. But with it, yes, we can just import existing studies. One bit of a warning, so you get just your complete study as you are used to, but typically the system will also find all kind of inconsistencies, and which you probably maybe were not even aware of, and you can resolve, but you don't have to necessarily.
So what are your usual cases? That do you import existing studies or you start usually from scratch? What's the real ratio?
A lot of companies have already. We are in. We have discussions with companies with even over 800 active studies of assets, really in live assets. So yeah, then there's not an option not to import it. So yes, we are doing this easily. It's in the next revalidation that you will use the knowledge graph to increase the level of the study and to add additional scenarios and to improve on justifications. And so you build along, I would
Yeah,
say.
understood. There's an interesting question, but before that, I want to understand what's the typical onboarding. Let's say I go for your free trial today. I know no prepayment is needed, and you will get a notification that I'm there. So how that start? Or so one of the clients contact you and say, "Hey, Geoffrey, I would love to try your platform." So what's the typical onboarding looks like from 0 to 100?
I would suggest that you can do two things. You can start with a free trial or not, and just drop us an email. Let's assume you start with a free trial. It will end after 2 weeks, but you at that moment in time you can just say, okay, I want to go for this price model because we have different price models behind it. I will come back to that a bit later. And as soon as you say I want to have this. You just will provide us with some information, but the system you need to provide us with some information, but the system allows you to already just continue. So even if you are in an active HAZOP, you can just run along. We have different price models, so typically for different kind of companies. If you are a freelancer, that free trial running through is easy. If you are a consultancy with multi-clients, probably you will need to have a dialogue with us. If you are a company, probably also you need a bit of a dialogue. But if you are a big enterprise, we typically make a full complete custom implementation plan with first starting a pilot, bringing all stakeholders on board, presenting the results of the pilot back to the stakeholders, have a formal go, no go, have some commercial negotiate. Every step you typically would see there. Yeah, that's how it typically works.
Yeah. But talking about prices, I'm sure there was a mention, not in this webinar directly, but during the process, that you save a lot of cost, and that's visible now from different clients. It's not only a number, but the practical information that you've gathered. So how much average cost do you save?
Yeah, we express it best in the number of review days we save. And normal, typical HAZOP, a review team across the table can be anything between 4 to 6, up to even 12 plus participants. Such a typical day would cost a company somewhere between 5,000 and 12,000 euros. And we cut workshop time in half. That's our experience so far. So for every day you saved 5 to 12,000 euros.
So what's the maximum you're saving for one customer? Is there any number?
Sorry?
What's the maximum cost you have saved to any customer? One individual customer.
That's a good question. For the larger enterprises, we also often make a business case. So we present to them, okay, this is what we think we can save. Our biggest business case was, and that was a big company, by the way, but was all about 500,000 euros for a 5-year program, by the way.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm sure.
But numbers are, to be honest, you have to first have a dialogue and trust.
I understand.
Where you start. Yeah,
I understand. But what I can imagine that the ROI can be from 100% to 1,000%, depending on who is the customer and what's happening and so on. But anyway, let's look at some other interesting questions on the screen. How could I use the system for periodic rehazops every 5 years?
That's a good question, and I can also see the questions, by the way. So the next follow-up question would have been, can I benefit from a past experience? So redo correct parts of the studies. So answer is yes. And what we would do then is, we can do, of course, both things. So if you are to start a new revalidation cycle, if you would start a new one for certain units, I would say at that moment, just do a redo HAZOP, because then you have to complete new every information. But that's typically not how it works. You have many different units, many different systems. And what we would do then is just have the first import. During the import, also already resolve all those inconsistencies. What you can do after the import, you can also already add additional data. So on the screen somewhere in the demo, there was a safeguard, which we confirmed. And there was a justification in, and there was extra data in. You can already, after importing, saying, but this safeguard, is this safeguard in the knowledge graph? And we can already improve it on that. So we can grow into it. And yes, after having imported a study, on the next revalidation, you just add scenarios. Or maybe remove scenarios even and replace them completely by additional scenarios. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks. So we have last 4 minutes, and I think I would like to take 2 more questions, and then I need 2 more minutes to conclude today's webinar. I'm sure there's one more question, but I wanted to understand 2 things quickly, very short. How are different authorities, such as Dutch SEVOSO inspection or similar, reacting to your software? Because it is related to safety. Your contribution matters a lot. How are they reacting?
Yeah. So since it's a new system, often you get questions. So what we really support clients with is also, even if they want to, we even participate in the SEVOSO inspection to explain it a bit more. And we've done that in the last 2 years, I would say over 10 times. And as soon as we start explaining how watertight our system is, it's really completely closing plan, do, check, act. As soon as they understand that and have seen that revalidation record and that audible thrill behind it, they just completely run away with it. So far, we also helped big companies which really had SEVOSO, what we call big fines about it, and help them to resolve it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Maybe the last question, and then I take it over. Where all this data is stored, Geoffrey?
Also, again, good question. And of course, in this time, we have to think about cybersecurity. We have to think about vulnerability. So what we have done is we built our system completely with state-of-the-art systems behind it, completely dedicated isolation of customers there. But if I have to deep dive and in all details, I will have to refer you back to my CTO for that. He knows it and I can explain it far better than I can. But rest assured, it's a really state of art there.
Yeah, I'm sure those who are really interested, they will ask you this question, and this is not the first time anybody has asked and or worried about where data is stored. So those who are interested, they will definitely come back to you. And with this, Bart and both Geoffrey, thank you very much for your explanation. Thanks for all the answers. And let me share my screen again, and we will conclude today's webinar. So, as you know, BM Process is running the series of webinar with different partners. We started with Kranz and then Gordium. The next one, of course, we have Oxidec on the pipeline. And then we have another 2 partners, Duetec and Quanta, and their explanation. What they do is also on the screen. So save your date for the next webinar, which is on 5th of February, 2026. Thursday, 15:30 until 16:30, where we are going to speak about nature-inspired emission control, how UV and plasma system transform industrial air treatment. So we hope to see you again with our next webinar. And thank you very much for your time and your questions, your interactions. Please feel free to visit bmprocess.nl for more information. Follow us on the on the LinkedIn, subscribe to our newsletter, and if any questions, write it to us at hello@bmprocess.nl. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, our expert, and we hope to see all of you again in the next webinar series.